Russia and Ukraine remain apart on key conditions to end the fighting, following the first direct talks since the war began.
European leaders prepare new sanctions on Russia at the European Political Community Summit in Albania.
US President Donald Trump has departed from Abu Dhabi, wrapping up his three-nation Gulf tour, having secured trillions of dollars in business deals and agreements.
The first direct talks between Moscow and Kyiv since Russia launched its full-scale invasion ended after less than 2 hours. Both sides agreed on a large prisoner swap, but remained far apart on key conditions to end the fighting. No agreement was reached concerning a full 30-day ceasefire, and Moscow reportedly demanded Kyiv withdraw from 4 regions it had invaded, none of which Russia fully controls.
Договорились о том, что каждая сторона представит свое видение возможного будущего прекращения огня. Пропишет это в деталях. После того, как такое видение будет представлено, мы полагаем целесообразным, тоже об этом договорено, продолжить наши переговоры.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said he discussed the talks with allies from the US, France, Germany, the UK and Poland. He urged tough sanctions against Moscow if it rejects a full and unconditional ceasefire.
There was little in the way of concrete outcomes during leaders' speeches. There were many strong statements made against Russia, for Ukraine, and regarding migration, energy defence and the general geopolitical situation. Macron called for the removal of trade barriers and no protectionism. Costa called for a two-state solution between Gaza and Israel. And Meloni called out the no-show of Putin at the Ukraine negotiating table earlier this week. But the real gritty conversations were had behind the scenes. Much has been said about EPC summits in terms of them having limited power. Some journalists have questioned what is the point. But as I have heard off camera and from those in meetings today, and even before the event, there is much more freedom to discuss and have meetings, to hash out plans, differences and ideas at a summit like this, rather than in an EU summit or similar. One high-level insider told me that it's events like this where some of the more crucial decisions that shape our continent are made. Will this be the case this time? Let's see.
US President Donald Trump wrapped up a successful three-nation Gulf tour, signing more than $2 trillion worth of business deals with Saudi Arabia, Qatar and the United Arab Emirates. The trip also marks several developments on the diplomacy front, aimed at boosting regional stability and reviving stalled negotiations. The message from the three host nations was clear and aligned. The president must help restore peace in the Middle East, using political measures and diplomacy. Trump has delivered on what he set out to do with securing investments in the US, a $1.4 trillion deal with the UAE, a $600 billion investment pledge by Saudi Arabia, and a historic $200 billion Boeing order by Qatar.
Tremendous investment in our country, and the development you just looked at, AI Plus, it's going to be purchased through mostly companies based in the United States, and the last 4 days have been really amazing.
The president also made strides in diplomacy, announcing the lifting of US sanctions on Syria, pledging to continue working with Qatar over Gaza, and announcing that the US is inching closer to a new nuclear deal with Iran. Laila Humaira, Euronews, Qatar.
More than 80 people were killed after Israel launched airstrikes across the Gaza Strip on Friday, according to local hospital officials. Health officials said 66 bodies were brought to Gaza's Indonesian hospital, while another 16 were taken to Nasser Hospital. Israel did not immediately issue a statement on the strikes, which forced residents to flee the Jabalia refugee camp and the town of Beit Lahia. The attacks came as US President Donald Trump concluded a regional tour of the Middle East that excluded Israel and offered no indication of progress towards a ceasefire. An Israeli blockade of the territory is now in its 3rd month, and there had been hope that Trump's trip could facilitate the resumption of humanitarian aid. Israel says the blockade, which restricts the entry of food, fuel, medicine and other supplies, is intended to pressure Hamas into releasing the remaining hostages it holds. Earlier this week, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu vowed to escalate force in Israel's war in the Gaza Strip to destroy Hamas.
Od północy trwa cisza wyborcza, która zakończy się w niedzielę o godzinie 21 w czasie publikacji pierwszych sondażowych wyników wyborów, chyba że Państwowa Komisja Wyborcza zdecyduje się ją przedłużyć. W tym czasie nie wolno publikować materiałów promujących kandydatów, organizować wieców, rozdawać ulotek, ani prowadzić kampanii w mediach, zarówno tradycyjnych, jak i społecznościowych. Za złamanie ciszy wyborczej grożą poważne konsekwencje prawne. Zgodnie z kodeksem wyborczym za publikację sondaży lub prognoz w czasie ciszy grozi grzywna od 500 000 do nawet 1 000 000 złotych. Złamanie ciszy wyborczej może być zgłaszane przez obywateli do odpowiednich służb, takich jak policja czy Państwowa Komisja Wyborcza. Wprowadzenie ciszy wyborczej ma na celu zagwarantowanie wyborcom spokojnej i wolnej od presji atmosfery do podjęcia samodzielnej decyzji przy urnie. W dobie internetu jest to coraz trudniejsze. Nawet polubienie lub udostępnienie posta promującego danego kandydata może zostać uznane za złamanie ciszy wyborczej. Mateusz Jaroński, Warszawa, Euronews.
Hungarian civilians hung a large banner on the Buda Castle tunnel protesting against the so-called transparency draft bill on Friday.
Ez a terv, ez a leszámolási törvény minden ízében gonosz, mélységesen cinikus és csak egyetlen célt szolgál. Végképp kiéheztetni, megfojtani, minden forrást elzárni azoktól, akik hallatják a hangjukat, vagy kritizálják a hatalmat.
The opposition party Momentum also took action in front of the Sovereignty Protection Office building, pouring red paint on the fence and calling for a demonstration. Police have opened an investigation against them for vandalism.
Persze, ez most valamilyen szinten gumicsont, tehát ha nem foglalkozunk vele, akkor bevezetik, akkor csinálják, így meg gumicsont. Nyilván akkor lesz ideje az igazi akcióknak, amikor elkezdik alkalmazni ezt a törvényt.
The Hungarian parliament is expected to debate the bill on transparency as early as next week.
For now, since this is a draft law, we will not comment on its details. But let me underline here, the Commission places great importance on the role of civil society. We remain committed to protecting the freedom of association and to fostering an enabling environment for civil society across the EU, including as regards access to funding.
The spokesperson noted that last October, the European Commission took Hungary to the EU Court of Justice, arguing its national sovereignty law breaches EU law.
From environmental exemptions to cutting red tape, the European Commission has presented its simplification plan for the agricultural sector. Shortly after the plan was announced, European Commissioner for Agriculture Christoph Hansen gave details of the project during a meeting organized by Euronews. He said the plan is intended to benefit all players, from farmers to member states.
What is felt as administrative burden on the farm is not only CAP, there's as well environmental legislation, health and sanitary legislation, often as well national or regional legislation. So I think everybody needs to contribute to cut down this bureaucracy.
The simplification plan should save farmers €1.5 billion a year and national authorities €210 million. The package of measures is aimed in particular at small farms and organic production. It involves providing exemptions from environmental rules, also known as cross-compliance, or financial aid for practices that benefit the environment or the competitiveness of farms. The Commissioner is also keen to develop the digitalization of the sector.
So I have as a farm my digital wallet, and if the water administration needs to know something from my land, they can take it out of that. If the environmental agency needs to know something, they can take it. I think it is very important that we reduce as well the stress for our farmers, because currently it depends on the member state. They are facing 5, 6, 7 controls in a year. Yeah. And that is causing a huge stress to our farmers, and therefore we want as well to reduce these controls and there the member states are as well to deliver. We want to reduce this to one control per year.
Environmental NGOs believe that this simplification threatens the environmental objectives of the agricultural sector. However, Hansen says he is responding to the concerns of farmers who have demonstrated on numerous occasions over the past year against European regulations that they believe are too restrictive.
This might be the beginning of a crackdown on illegal short-term tourist rentals, with Brussels City's planning alderman deciding to seal an entire building. The property, containing 6 flats and an office, had been converted for tourist use without legal permits.
Il y a beaucoup de personnes qui sont dans la rue avec des valises, qui viennent pour loger ici à côté. Et alors il y a beaucoup de gens qui ne savent plus se loger, des personnes qui travaillent, qui ne trouvent plus de logement.
City officials had urged the manager to stop these activities for over a year, but dialogue failed. The radical decision aims to preserve housing for Brussels residents, especially in the high-pressure city centre. But some find this measurement excessive.
Airbnb, pourquoi pas? Ça a toujours ramené du monde dans un centre-ville qui est un petit peu délaissé. Donc aller commencer à fermer ça, j'ai l'impression que c'est un petit peu excessif.
Unregulated tourists can also cause noise pollution and nuisance for permanent residents.
Je comprends très bien les propriétaires parce que ça permet de multiplier typiquement par 3 le revenu locatif. Mais habitant moi-même dans le quartier, je ne suis pas pour.
Brussels says sealing the building sends a strong signal to other owners about respecting town planning rules.